Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining me. My name is Karen, and I will be recreating this image with ink and watercolor. I'll be filming this in real time, so if you would like to sketch along with me, I'll leave all the supplies in the description below. Feel free to use any watercolor paper you have on hand. I'm going to be using my Bao watercolor block pad, sketchbook pad, and the image is more square and my paper is obviously rectangle. I'm just not going to go all the way to the edges. I'm just going to make everything focused in the center of this little sketchbook here. So I started off with my mechanical pencil, which I love to just do kind of a little rough sketch of just a few items, and then I'll grab my uni-ball pen and I'll go over the pencil with that. Once I get a few things in there so I know that my perspective is correct, then I feel confident going forward. So I started with the door, and I'm going to pencil in just a light little pencil of the two golden retrievers on the front step. And I do like this mechanical pencil. It's a really nice, I'm trying to get the lead to come out a little bit further, because if you have a longer lead exposed, you tend to draw a little bit lighter and looser because you don't want to break that tip off. But I think I'm running out of lead in this. I think this is a short piece of lead here, so I'm just going to push on. I added the top of the patio and doing the shutters now, and then the two pillars. I picked this image because I love a pink door. It gives me a chance to use my favorite color of all time, opera pink. We all have our favorite colors, and that one is absolutely mine. So anytime I see an image with something pink, even if it's a dull pink, I'm going to go ahead and just knock it out of the park with a brighter pink, and that would be my opera pink. So I've got the gist of what I want here. I'm going to go in and just start adding all the ink work with my uni-ball Ultra Micro. It's a really nice fine tip pen. Now, pencil in everything that I've got here except for the dogs. The only thing I'm not going to pencil in is the dogs, because I want to just paint those in. I want to paint those two guys in, and then the only thing I will do is their eyes and nose with the pen, and just a little bit of fur, but I'm not going to outline them at all. I'm going to keep them nice and soft with just the paint. So I'm going to just ink in everything else around them. And just because I put the pencil in there doesn't mean I'm going to exactly follow it. It just gives me kind of a guideline, and then I start really focusing. But I ended up putting that pillar to the right a little too far over, and instead of correcting it, I ended up penciling over it. I just couldn't see it when I was doing it. But if you make mistakes, and I haven't gotten to it yet, you'll see when I get to it, but when I do make a mistake, you just push on, because nobody's going to know, and you can't, once you start painting and you can paint over things, you won't see the lines underneath, like these lanterns that I'm doing right now. I ended up bringing the shutter a little too far down, and that's okay. We're going to place the lanterns right over that, and we're going to paint. You won't notice those lines if you happen to go through something that is a subject that's in front of something else. I'm going to put in those beams that are in the ceiling of that patio, and I'm just looking to see where they are starting compared to like the door or the top of the awning, or shutter, excuse me, shutters. I find it so interesting where you could just be sketching along and then all of a sudden it just gets out of whack and you're like, how did that even happen? But it does. And sometimes you just gotta, like I always say, push on and just make it your own. And we're using the reference photo as just a fun guideline. It doesn't have to be exact. You can add what you like and omit what you don't. So here I'm putting in that pillar, and gosh darn it, I wish I would have moved that over. I just didn't see it at the time, which it's always so interesting when I narrate. I'm like, how did I not see that? That needs to go way over and closer to that lantern. But that's okay. It'll be fine. I'm going to lightly put in that top step, and I'm going to not go through. I'm going to leave that open in the center for the dog's legs, and once I get them painted in, then I'll go ahead and place the lines in between. And I'm not making these pavers perfect, as it'll give them a little bit more character. And I went a little bit too far over. I should have put those there's 4 pots on the steps, and I just didn't get those in, but I'm going to do it now. And once we paint them, you won't see the lines behind them anyways. And this one should have gone a little bit over, more closer to that lantern again, but I'm going to place it on the edge here. I'm looking at it going, that back of that right side of that shutter was behind the pillar, but I'm just going to give it its own little space. And now I'm just going to add in all the greenery. And this is my favorite part. I love doing tropical plants and flowers, and I'm just loosely with the pen giving all different shapes of leaves. And there's some beautiful orchids in there. Which we'll again get to use the opera pink for all those beautiful flowers. And I'm not going to be following these plants perfectly. I'm just going to make it my own. And as I go down further, I will start adding smaller leaves and a little bit more. But I'm still going to leave some white of the paper behind. I think this is one of my favorite reference photos. This house, bungalow, cottage, whatever it may be, is located in Key West. And I bet it's so adorable inside and out. Obviously it is in front. I would love to see the inside and the back, especially if it's on the water. I found this reference photo on Instagram. So I always like to kind of search Florida themed images, cottages, bungalows, boutique hotels, things like that, lighthouses, anything Florida based is my theme. But sometimes I'll sketch something that's not Florida based if I love it enough. But it seems like a lot of my images tend to be Key West. And unfortunately, I've never been, so it's on my bucket list. And I think they just have some of the best images on Instagram for Key West. Adding in some more orchids and some other flowers, and then again the leaves are getting smaller as we get to the bottom. I'm going to add in some of the details of the door now and the shutters. I love pink and black together. Reminds me of Good and Plenty, although if I wear pink and black, I feel like a Good and Plenty candy. So I decided I'm going to do that other step. I have enough room there to add that. Now I am done with the initial ink part. I'm going to erase a few of the pencil lines. I love this eraser. It doesn't leave too much of a mess. I finally found, I had that eraser in my supply somewhere, and I finally found it. Got it out. I'm so happy with it. It's like a gum eraser, so it doesn't leave all that debris after erasing. I will be using my Paul Rubin set of watercolor paints. I have a little container of water, and I'll be using my Dugato size 0 watercolor mop brush. Got a little towel in my lap, and I'll start off with a very light shade of Golden Retriever. So I will be using a little burnt sienna, and I have a little flesh color paint there. I'll mix that in, lots of water, keeping it light. I think that was about a nice call to just paint them and now outline them. I add a little bit more burnt sienna. And it's always okay to leave a little white paper. Doesn't have to be solid, just kind of dab away. I love this brush because it has a really nice fine tip for these smaller details. Adding a little more burnt sienna again. I love how they're sitting on this front step. I bet they got some cookies after that pose. And then one dog on the right. He's a little bit older. You could tell he's got that white face. So cute. So I have my other paint set has my opera pink. Unfortunately, the Paul Rubin doesn't have a bright pink. It has a rose pink, but I wanted to use my shocking opera pink. It's, like I said, it's my favorite color. And that's going to be my pink for the door and the flowers. Now those dogs are not dry yet, so I'm trying to be really, really careful. I'm just going to go right up to them without getting into that paint. I do not want it to bleed, and I don't have the patience to wait for it to dry. I do have a blow dryer right next to me, but sometimes I like a good challenge. Isn't that the most beautiful pink? Oh, I love it. So I have ivory black, and I'm really lightly, not very dark, add a lot of water, kind of really diluted it. That is going to be my black of the shutters. I don't want them black. I just don't want it really stark. I want that door to stand out more than anything, and then the flowers. I added a little bit of the ivory black into the lantern itself because you can see through that. Working on the pavers now. They're kind of a different shades of reds. There's a little green in there. And obviously that color is a little bit brighter, but it's going to dry a little bit lighter. Adding a little sap green. A little more water to dilute it. A little more sap green. There's even a little bit of pink in those steps. So I'll use the rose. I think it's the permanent rose. Yeah, little, no, actually that's the wrong one. I don't want that one. There you go. I want the permanent rose and just add a little bit of that in there. Using the cerulean blue, with a lot of water. You can see that roof of the porch is a bluish, a beautiful blue. I love that. It's one of my favorite colors too. Is that color. It's a little bit deeper, but I'm going to actually pull that down through the house as well. And there's some of the, I'm going to give the illusion of it going to the side with just some diagonal blue lines. Now we're ready to add our foliage. So I've mixed up sap green and some cad yellow for my lighter green. And just going to drop that in here and there. And my green was bleeding into the other paint. So if that ever happens, just grab your paper towel and just kind of dab the paint off. I'll come back to those leaves when that all dries. Working on a color for the lanterns, the wood and on the backs of the lanterns. A nice thing to do is just whatever colors on your palette, add to those colors. Don't start mixing up all different colors. Just add to the color that's on your palette, because by doing that, it gives your painting harmony by intermixing paints throughout your painting. I'm going to go back to my opera pink now for the flowers. And just lightly drop little dots. And that was not dry, so I'm going to blot that again, come back to that later. Little ivory black for the light. I'm going to leave a little opening in the center because I'm going to be adding the cad yellow for a little pop of a light bulb. Mixing up a little bit more green, adding those 2 leaves that I dabbed out. And I'm using just straight sap green for just a variation of a different green to give some depth. And pick up a little bit more water, add it to that green, and then just lightly tap the brush for some spatters. And then I'm going to add the glass to the lanterns with a really light shade of that ivory black again. Using a little darker blue, just a hint of cobalt for that floor, patio floor. And then add a little bit more water just to give us a little lighter shade for that drop down of that first step. I thought I'd add some little bit of detail here, and then I decided I didn't like it, so I ended up kind of blending it out. And there's a black awning or something back there. Could be a door. I'm just going to give it a little bit of detail on the side here so it's not so one-sided. And the pots are white. I decided to use my cobalt, give them a little color, just add a little more color to this painting. I think that was a good choice. Mixing up a little bit of burnt sienna and just a little bit of raw umber just to give us some variation of that fur. Their ears, their backs have a little bit of a darker shade. I go down their chest a little bit. Gives us that shadowing. A little bit on their chest here, up above their chin. Or their muzzle. And added a little water to the brush just to lightly blend that fur. Now that everything's all dry, I'm going to prop it back up on my palette so I can sketch a little bit more with the ink and bring out some of these details. I'm going to add the detail in the door. And this, I'm still using my uni-ball ultra micro just for some of these details. And then a little bit later, when I want a little darker, I'm going to grab the regular micro uni-ball for some darker features. Oh, and you can see very lightly, I didn't have the camera on, I penciled in their eyes and their nose, just so that I know where I can put that ink. I didn't want to go in with ink and mess up and make their eyes too close or too far apart, too high or too low. So I just cheated a little bit, added a little pencil, and that helped give me a little bit of a better guideline. I was trying to put in a little mouth, but I think you're better off just doing the eyes and the nose. We're going to come back in with pink for their tongues. Now I can add a little more detail to that top step. And the slats of the shutters. And we'll add that little crossbar. Put in some candles. Pick up that other palette with that pink. I'm going to add their tongues. Even though they're not that bright pink, I'm going in with my pink. Too cute. And then I add that light bulb with some cad yellow. This palette's a little dry, so I'm just trying to add some water. Pick up a little bit of yellow on that brush. And just a little dot. It's those little details. Top of the lantern, I'll be using some Payne's Gray. And now I can add those flowers into the pots because the green is all dry. And pick up a little bit of water and do some spatters of pink. So this is my finished sketch, and this is how you take it off of the block. Comes with a little plastic tool, And you slip it into that little opening area on the top and just carefully slice along. Sometimes there's a little glue stuck on the sides, so you just peel that off. So I did go in with the uni-ball micro, and I just added a few more details into the shutters, added a little bit of detail to the lanterns, added a little bit of dark to the top of those 4 planters on the steps to give them a little depth, and then outline the stairs of the pavers just a little bit, and the dogs. It gave them a little bit of fur. But look at how cute. I just love this sketch. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you sketched along with me and yours turned out better. So if you are a subscriber, I want to thank you so much for subscribing. If you are not, please think about subscribing so you don't miss out. I will leave, if you have any comments, first of all, if you have any comments or questions, please reach out and leave them below. And also below under the description, I will leave all the supplies again. If you didn't sketch with me, you can pick up some of those supplies and do it later. And just click the link and you can purchase them straight through the link. So thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, and bye for now.